now that we're all warmed up doing the thing that we do at the Ale, welcome. I'm glad to see so many of you here this morning. The Ale, of course, is a celebration for many of us, for all of us. For many years we've come here to celebrate being together, performing for each other, performing with each other, and some of us who've been here for a very long time are very mindful of how important someone was in helping us create and understand the value of this celebration. Of course, Tony Barrand is not able to be with us this year, as he has been for so long, and I'm glad that we can be here to think about that. A number of you have asked to spend a couple of minutes chatting with us about their recollections of Tony, and I'm going to ask Rhett to start.
Hey everybody, I was just thinking of specific memories about Tony that he and I would talk about. I just remember that one time where Tony was faced with a moment of triumph turned into potential catastrophe, and he had 1 minute to figure out what to do. So, you know, he and Kari Smith spent 7 years collecting the Marley clog material, which is one of his greatest achievements of all. And he was taking it to England to demonstrate the biggest clog festival in England. Right, Mike? So he had his checked bags full of all the portable staircase to dance up and down, all that material. And he and I were flying out of JFK with our 2 carry-ons stuffed with the critical stuff we couldn't let out of our hands. The one-of-a-kind Marley photos and clogs going back to 100 years, his own clogs, these metal slabs, these huge slabs of granite that we would be carrying on bags, they were too heavy to put in, he would dance on the pedestals. Absolutely had to be there. We turned in our tickets, we're getting on the plane, everything's going smooth, and there is an announcement. British Airways would like to let you know a policy change. You are now allowed 1 check-on bag. And this is strictly enforced, no exceptions. Security is coming down the line one by one to make sure you are complying. Your choices are, don't get on the plane, turn around, or we will help you by throwing out your bag for you. There's panic, there are tears, there's people yelling, there's people, and stern-faced security is coming by, and they're actually throwing people's bags in the garbage. British Airways would like to apologize for screwing you royally at no notice. So what to do? I looked at him, what would you think he'd be doing? I looked at him, it's that big smile of his, that smile of confidence, that gold tooth, you know, and it works. And he looks and he says, we got this. How we got this? How we got this? He said, he whispers some words to me. He says, you go first. So I go. One of these is like 50 pounds of stone. And I go to the guard, and she's very stern-faced, and I said, here's my 1 bag. I understand your policy. Let me get my ticket for you. And he said, oh, you don't need my ticket? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. And I back away and grabs Tony's 3rd bag, and backing away. She doesn't completely fall for this. Her eyes are watching me, and I think there's people standing out like this, and she's about to open her mouth and saying, well, there's a crash. Tony drops his bag. And like a good security guard, she turns around to the noise, and he engages all her senses. He's pointing to the bag, playing the jerk, asking her stupid questions, waving with his hands, and her focus is totally on him as I back onto the airplane. We get onto the airplane, we take these slabs of granite, put them in the overhead bin, and say a prayer for no turbulence. And then we break into laughter, and he and I always remembered how he outsmarted the British Air's security. So to me, the 2 characteristics that I think shine through this is I think you'll recognize him, that wonderful self-confidence that he had, that he can do it. When do you see him in doubt? And also that he could totally engage the audience in every way as a great performer does. That's what I think.
So, as the other fool, I wanted to just say how much I appreciated, I can't say dancing with him in that context, but being with him. Charlene and I, with Joanna, who I think she is, moved here in '76 because Fred and Tony and Dinah and John were here and were starting a Morse team. And we wanted to be part of that. So we were. And the other thing I'm going to say is Tony's work ethic. One of the things he would always tell us at practice was, you don't come to practice to get in shape for Morris dancing. You get in shape and then you come and you Morris dance. I never did that, but and my Achilles has paid the price. But anyway, it's been a long and very complicated relationship that I have had with him, and I don't think there's any way that it could be anything but that. And I'm really glad to be here to remember him.
Hi, I'm Larry Becker, and I danced with the group in the '79 through the early 1980s, and I just wanted to come up here and talk about, what a seminal figure that Tony was, and how his power and his strength as a teacher really meant so much to me, and helped me when we started the Midnight Capers up in central Vermont. And so what I think it was Steve Mindell, I was at his contra dance. I was teaching at the last fateful semester of Windham College, if anybody remembers that. That goes back. And I think I was at a contra dance, and Steve asked me to come up to a practice. So I came up, and of course I just marveled at the way Tony could break it down and teach all the elements, and as he brought us along, and in the various positions and all that, was just a great thing that I will always remember about him. His care, and of course the humor was always a funny way to get there. And but in terms of being such a seminal figure, and I was yesterday at I don't know if many of you may know Larry Gordon, but he passed recently, and there was a thing this weekend, and I was there yesterday. Kate was with me, and but we were recalling how this all started. Is that Larry arranged a garland dance workshop with Tony, and so Tony came up, and I think he taught in Plainfield in the community center there, and we all got the hoops, and we made the hoops, and we all would dance, and there was a place on the Plainfield town recreation area that we all danced, and we danced with garland dances in the steps and so on and so forth. And so it was that seed that he left there, and then I went to the workshop because I knew him, of course, and then I began to be part of this group, and because I had learned Morse dancing from Tony, that I began to teach the Morse dancing, so it kind of morphed into a Morse dance group. But the core of it that I remember so much, and that he gave me, was the way to work with dancers, and work with the hankies, and how they would go up in the air and come. You'd let them, you kind of bring them down, and it was all connected in some way, and that just really informed the way I taught, based on what I saw him taught. As I've said, dance is like a process of emulation, and I was honored to have me asked to do a jig down here in Brattleboro during one of those years, and it's just kind of matching his energy, which you had to get up to to get to that level, and that charisma and that theatrical nature that he had, that you felt challenged by that to be part of that that power that he had, and also that power of bringing people together for this enterprise. And he's missed by many in and that care for detail, and that you work on detail, and it meant so much. All that work brought the quality in the end, that he cared about that. So thank you.
Of course, Tony, for many of us, is all about music as well. So I'm hoping that somebody will lead us in a song.
You gonna go, Em?
So,
You gonna introduce yourself, Emma?
oh yeah, I'm Emma Davis, and I have my dad and my brother because of this whole ale, and I'm gonna be on it mostly myself. So I have a song that Tony and Magadeo requested that they want me to do. So it's called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And maybe you guys can sing along with me. So. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that heard of once forever.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. I quite literally feel like I'm following in Tony's footsteps at mass stands, speaking out, telling everybody who we are, what we're doing, and I'm so grateful to everything he has taught me, shown me, told me to speak slower. And there's really nothing quite like the feeling of getting that big thumbs up with a big grin, knowing that you've done it well. So a few years ago, Tony very generously, as he was sort of decommissioning his collection of items that he had accumulated over the years, donated a few instruments to the Country Dance and Song Society, where I happen to work. And we brought those items to some of our summer programs where we have auctions to raise money for scholarships and our programming and keeping these traditions going. And one of those instruments was put in the auction, and I bid on it, and other people bid on it. I think Rhett bid on it, perhaps. I bid on it again. Rhett bid on it again. I bid on it again, and I took it home. Right? And maybe a few weeks later, I got an email from Tony. And Tony said, there's something you need to know about that drum. And he told me a story of, he used to use this drum in performances with Noel Sing We Clear. And one time, after a performance, somebody came up to the stage and said, why are you using that drum? And he said, because it's a good sounding drum. And they said, no, why are you using that drum? Where did you get it? And he said, well, I think I got it in a secondhand shop. It was a good looking drum. It sounded good. I liked it, so I took it home. And she said, that is a Nazi youth drum. And he said, oh, but it sounds good. So he told me this story, and I was like, oh, considering my ancestry, that was a big deal for me. And so the drum lived in my attic for a year while I thought about it, and I thought about it, and it was in the summer, I think, of 2020 when there was a lot of going on. I was attending various rallies, protests, Black Lives Matter, and I had a thought of like, this drum needs to be out in the world. And I need to reclaim it for us and for myself. And so I did. I gave it what's called a Jewish mikveh ceremony. And I sprinkled it with water from my garden and held it up, and I gave it a facelift. And it now represents me, and it represents us, and my only regret is I didn't get to show Tony. But I'm going to keep playing this drum for Tony and for us and for bringing justice to the world, taking those who try to push us down, and I'm going to lift us up with those same tools. Thank you, Tony.